These guys are just forcing their way across. Oh, fuck you, I need to go to work! I woke up late. Oh, hey. Oh, so sorry. I'm sorry. It's okay, isn't it? Yeah, sorry about that. Caution, keep clear cyclists. Where do I find a clear cyclist? Oh. It just ripped that wing mirror off that car? I think it may have. And the most obvious indicators, I think. I kept pulling out in front of me. Why do so slowly? Get it all the way into the way and then be like, oh, better slow down. Did see a motorcycle coming. Good on you for seeing me coming. It's such a bizarre, uniquely British habit. Could randomly do a wet little green lane before I take this to get a wash. Bound to be some round here. After, of course, I visited and looked after my mate who's in hospital. Where is A&E? Old apartments, main entrance, visitors car park. Motorcycles! I see you over there! Hospitals. You're going to them lately. Right. So what appears to have happened is my mate's been on his way to work. And took a header off the stairs and smashed his chin into the ground. So he might need stitches. Oopsies. Says buses only. Well, I'm a bus now. Honk honk. Oh, there it is, right up in front of us. Yeah, so he's taken a header off the stairs and appears to have fucked himself. Went in there thinking he just might need stitches or something, but apparently he's broken his jaw. So now got to go up to King's College Hospital and see if he needs surgery, which would be shitty. And he is in this Vauxhall insignia. One of the things that I think was interesting there is there in the A&E department, there was this thing up on the wall about wait times, and we topped the charts at 2.5 hours. And I keep hearing all of these things about hospital wait times. I mean, I hear about hospital wait times and not enough beds. Now, not enough beds is a considerable problem, but the not enough wait times thing, I think, is just such a... It's an easy metric to measure, so I get why they measure it on that front, but... Oh, you got a lot of shit on your dash. But it's a... It just seems to me like a fairly silly one to measure. Like, I spoke to a guy in there who was... he saw my motorcycle jacket and went, that's a nice jacket. Don't know why he didn't sound like that. And we got chatting about motorcycle stuff, and his hands were all messed up. And he said he'd been in there the day before after he had a car accident. Some guy had come through a roundabout going way too fast. What the hell bike is that? Some guy had come through a roundabout going way too fast, clipped him, his work, he's like a tree cutting service, we're in a big 3-ton truck, and they clipped him and flipped it, and he wasn't wearing a seatbelt, smashed his hands through the drive. He was a passenger, and he threw him over to the driver's side and smashed his hands through the window. So he had one hand all bandaged up and the other one was fairly scratched up. And he said he'd been in there the day before and had 2 x-rays of the hand, and neither x-ray had spotted that there was some glass embedded in his hand. Now, I get it, everybody complains about wait times because that's a sort of, when you feel you're in need, that's a significant thing that you want. You don't want to be left there waiting. But, but it just seems to me like a sort of silly metric. Like, if you could say to somebody, hey, would you rather wait 1 hour and get an x-ray that doesn't spot a chunk of glass in your hand, or would you like to wait 2.5 hours and get an x-ray that does? I think most people would be like, well, I guess I'll have to put up with a longer wait time because I don't want you to miss stuff. Now, it's not quite that linear a thing. I believe there is a study that suggests that actually less experienced doctors, particularly radiographers, I think the study was on radiographers, and it was like, look at this scan, this person's complaining of blah blah, and they're told to look for a broken bone, and then in the x-ray is something else quite obvious, and what they found was the more experienced radiographers were more likely to miss it because they're so used to seeing broken bones and know what they're looking for on the broken bone front. I'm getting a bit behind him now, so I'm just going to schloofle a couple of cars up. That they go, no, all the bones look intact, and they miss what's right in front of them. Whereas the less experienced people don't quite know what they're looking for, so they look at everything. They go back to their training. So I can understand why that happens. But the thing is, like, I think we absolutely need to fund the NHS. We need to get more people in those departments so they're able to. You just decided that red was not for you, so you could pull up 10 meters and stop. But it seems like a silly metric. I get it pisses people off, and in terms of customer service, that's one thing. But I would prefer that they tested patient outcomes. Like, how many people died during that wait? How many people had a condition that worsened, and had they been caught earlier, wouldn't have? How many people came in saying, oh, I've got a bit of a headache and I feel funny. It turns out to be a stroke, in which case time is, critical. And that's what I think we should be looking at, the wait times in relation to, not, oh, did people dislike how long they were waiting? Yeah. Another car's schloofling. I will schloofle too. I'll see you there. I'll see you there. I do want to do a bit of a shout out to the people that work in the NHS. I know a few A&E nurses, and I know a couple of play Battlefield with a couple of ambos, as we call them in Australia, paramedics that drive around in ambulances, and they do amazing work, and Jesus, they get some shit like goodness. Used to talk to one that used to work in A&E, and she was like, God, the number of people that come in with knife wounds, and they're all kicking off in the waiting area, and like sometimes the fight will start all over again. It just sounds shit. But it just sounds awful experience, and they're paid sweet fuck all for it, and the hours are awful, high stress, really high stakes, and so thankless. Like, I went up in the A&E there and said, thanks, I think you're all doing an amazing job in pretty tough conditions. But I overheard maybe 10 or 12 other conversations. We're all like, why is this taking so long? You're like, because you're a fucking emergency ward. People in here dying, motherfucker. But it's, you know, it's I can understand why the people are saying that. They're like, they're turning up massively in need of help. You know, they're only focused on their own condition. One woman, it's a, you know, psychosomatic condition. He's on his phone, but is he going to figure it out? See, could have been pretty painful. Oh, he's just said fuck this, fucking fuck it. You know, and my mate who works in the ambulance is like, Jesus, I mean, we want to get to those serious conditions, but we just continually get called by, you know, old people who they're pretty, he's like, some of them just want to have a chat. Some of them just like, they're like, oh, my stomach's a bit sore, but it's gone away now. Anyway, can I make you a cup of tea? It's because they're lonely, and you're like, that's really sad. It's a social care issue. But, you know, there's people with serious problems going on at the moment. And the other thing is how much the newspapers and the Tories bash the NHS. And they're like, I remember was it a Daily Mail or one of these newspapers did this article, like, somebody died of asphyxiation while round the corner two ambulance workers were just on their break. You know, they were on their break, so they refused to answer a call. And you're like, have you seen the kind of hours these poor bastards have to pull? Like, you're asking people to skip their breaks. You're going to end up with worse patient care. You're going to end up with people burning out and leaving and quitting being an ambulance worker because they're not able to handle the stress. They're not able to handle the bashing from all of the newspapers. They're just struggling to oops, so you're going a little quick down here. Probably back it off a tiny bit. You know, not able to handle the stress, all of the stuff, getting bashed by the newspapers, and having people on their back the whole time, and all of the sort of compliance, and it seems like a nightmarish job where he's like, oh, I get put on back-to-back shifts again. You know, he's always, him and his Hitman Pike and his mate Gooner are just, it just sounds awful. And I think it's just I think we just got to look at it like, what do we want? What system do we want? Do we want the NHS or do we want the states? They need more support, but that's okay because they're getting 350 million pounds a week now that we're leaving the European Union, right? Right? Good. Of those broken leg scooters. Looks like a hospital. Patient's entrance. Disabled? Who the fuck disabled is driving a car like that? Aha! Okie dokie. Ooh. An emotional day. Yeah, he's fine. I mean, well, he's not fine. He's smashed his face up, broken jaw. There's a high break and only a hairline fracture, so they said they don't need to do surgery, but they got him all prepped in case they needed to. thinking he might need surgery, and gave him the antibiotics and told him not to eat anything, and they came down, they're like, no, it should be okay, just keep an eye on it, make sure it's sort of not wandering, not becoming displaced, but generally it should be okay. And started giving you some stitches, and I started feeling a bit woozy, and Dave passed out, which freaked the absolute fuck out of his lady. But generally seemed to go great, just such good stuff. They're really good. Amazing stuff the NHS does. You just walk in, they're like, yep, bang, 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 dum, 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 stitch, 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 further appointment booked. That's it, and no more to pay. So, as a result of that, I'm going to become a blood biker. Not going to become a doctor. I don't know if the time for that, but to give up a few evenings a week to supplement the blood bikers, I will.